Appears to be live, or close enough, or as close as you're going to get. Half a day. Oh. And Ken, the camera guy. Two recurring subjects. So I guess the first one we'll deal with is the camera guy. I mean, I like to be able to play his video. It's not that long. He just laughs, and it's like he's making this argument that he's demonstrating proof of bending light, and it's just he's really not. He's a smart guy, and so for him to not acknowledge that he's not really bending light, it's a medium, the ferrocell. So basically, it's this round cell about this big with little lights all around it, LEDs. And it's full of ferrofluid mixed with some special ingredients. And it's 2 panes of glass with a little thin film inside of it. And so you take these powerful magnets and you put them under the cell or over it, or in proximity to the cell, and you'll have an effect where the LED light it'll be in a strand, so to speak, and it will appear to be bending. But logically that's not what's happening. The light you're seeing is light that doesn't even go anywhere, right? I mean, if you see a stream of LED light, or you see a stream of like a laser beam light, a laser pointer in smoke or something, that you're seeing light that never gets to the destination. You're not seeing the light that goes someplace. You're seeing the light that doesn't go someplace. You're seeing the light that fails to make it to the destination. And so in this ferrocell, it's like a magnifying glass, let's say. So what they're getting is a pattern on the cell when there's a magnet, and the lines kind of loop, they curve. And so instead of being like field lines that would be obvious, like when you put things around a magnet, it's quite different. Well, first, it's going to be different because it's a flat surface. It's one-dimensional. Wow, that's pretty weird. You can zoom in with the magnifying glass. See if I can do that again better. Ooh, nose. Ooh, eek. You're angry and mending. Lovely eyes, though. Anyway. So he's saying it's bending the light, and that's not what's happening. Let me turn on this please stand by page or whatever, just so I can see the chat. So I'm going to reload it just in case the chat needs to be maybe it's only active when the page isn't doing the please stand by thing. So I'll play the video for a second. The link is in the description where it should be, so that's working. And the flash is failing. And now it's going to do the something or other. And eventually I will be able to do the stop that. Yeah, it is weird. YouTube keeps switching from HTML5, so you can't make up its mind which one it wants to use here. Very strange, anyway. I find it strange that it's not committing to the HTML5 thing. But anyway, who cares? All right, so that's the beginning of the video. So I should be able to see the chat. And yeah, I just don't know why they have that stupid chat window here, because it doesn't do anything. So I'll just close this stupid chat. It doesn't do anything. Ah, somebody else is in the room. Probably an asshole, though. Are you an asshole? I don't hear anything. I'm really not big on having guests who aren't talking, so it's not really a peekaboo room. So if you're not going to talk physics, go peekaboo in some other room. This isn't a social event. Yeah, my volume works. So, oh, it's a little bit frozen at the moment. Maybe that's the problem. You still should be able to hear you if you're talking. All right, well, I'll give you a couple minutes. If you don't say anything, then I'll boot you. It's really, don't need people just camming up for no reason. I don't even understand the whole concept. So it seems perfectly retarded to me. Join a room and not say anything. Anyway, especially when your icon is just an icon. And, I mean, I just don't get it. Don't get it at all. All right, anyway, so back to this ferrocell thing. So there's this, somebody linked me to on the website, the camera website. Every now and then somebody posts something reasonable, I suppose. A link to a video explaining this Fermi thingy or other, or whatever it's called, or something. Well, anyway, but the idea is that you can change the polarization of light a little bit, a tiny bit, by having the light travel through oil of some kind or a medium. Oil just happens to work well, and sticking a magnet in it, a strong one, and you can subtly change the polarization. It's use filters, polarizing filters, and recognize this difference. And you'll see it like a difference in the strength of the light when the magnet's on, and when the magnet's off, you can change the intensity of the light because you'll be subtly changing the polarization. And so this ferrocell thing is working a similar way. So I don't exactly know why it creates these channels that the light travels through, but it's you can sort of figure that the ferrofluid itself is probably opaque to light in the sense that it's not going to let light go very far. The light can't travel through it. It's a bunch of little flecks of metal, essentially. And yeah, light's not going to do very well in that medium. So the places where a lot of the ferrous material would collect would be places that would be dark, and the places opposite would be the places that would end up being places where light could travel. And it's an oil, so it's a thick medium. The ferrofluid's thick, not thin. And it seems very likely that the pathways that the light's traveling through are essentially a representation of field lines in a sense, but there again, it's because it's a flat thing. The field lines can only go through it in a certain way. They can only affect it in a certain way. And then the idea that it's a round thing and that it's a thin fluid in a pressure flexing environment. So what I'm speculating is part of the cause of the bending of the lines. These lines theoretically you would think would be straighter. And what's bending the lines, the pathways, is the fact that the heavy magnet forces a bunch of the density of the fluid to the center where the magnet is, obviously. The same thing with iron filings. A bunch of the iron filings will stick to the magnet. And so a bunch of them collect in the center of the glass. And you can sort of see that when he moves the glass across the magnet. You can see the lines pulling. They don't go with the magnet. They go with the glass. So you can see them being stretched, indicating that once the shape is established in the fluid, the change isn't going to be instantaneous, and it's going to there's going to be a huge lag in terms of the effect. But what I'm saying is so that you think of that thin layer, and then you have a lot of the thick material, the metal part inside the ferrofluid is being drawn to that center. And so what it's doing is it's creating a little bit of rise in the glass thickness of the separation. And that's creating this diffraction of the pathways is the pressure difference in the fluid between the edges and the middle. And so the interesting thing for him to do would be to make one of these ferro cells that was square instead of round, and see how different the pattern is, see an indication of what's actually happening. It gives some of it away, but I mean, clearly it's still going to be dependent on that magnet creating an effect in the fluid in the center, and then that's going to radiate out and get weaker as it goes further towards the edges, and of course, so that's going to cause this curvature in the lines. But anyway, so it's not light that's bending, it's effectively electrons that reflect what you see. So you only see light that gets reflected off of an electron. So the only light you see is light that was reflected, that didn't go where it was heading. I mean, this is something just people, I know this is almost grammar school, but I mean, it's really important that you can't use light to see where light is. Because if you're seeing light, it's that piece of light didn't go where, it didn't go there, it went to your eye. So the point is what you're seeing is a place where light's getting reflected, not necessarily where light's traveling, which is, a big difference in a way. I mean, you have to recognize the difference, that it could be traveling somewhere you're not seeing, and you're only seeing the part that's getting reflected. And so, like I say, he's smart enough to know this kind of stuff. So he's like, he really doesn't want to think, and just the, I mean, this is where the cranks, the people who are trying to do the right thing, I guess, and be a little bit cynical about what the establishment is preaching, which has gotten insane. I mean, it really was insane of Einstein to do this. I mean, it works, but it just works in such a lame explanation that people should have just said, no, I just can't, bent space just doesn't do it. It's not good enough. It doesn't really explain a mechanism, and it doesn't do anything for force. And that should have been the thing that really was the giveaway, is that it doesn't explain force, and force is what you wanted to explain. If you're going to explain gravity, you have to explain force, because gravity is obviously a force. And once you have explained that force, then you can explain magnetism and all the other forces. And that's the way obviously that's the way I know the things, is because first I identified gravity correctly. And once you get the force correct, then it'll explain all the other forces, because that force dynamic, the idea of attraction and repulsion, once you explain why that happens, then it's going to be applicable to these other circumstances where bent space just doesn't do that. Anyway, it certainly doesn't go down to the macro level, and creates all kinds of energy problems where you're taking energy out of the real universe. Oh, okay, here's that guy. Yeah, I can't get my mic to work for some reason. Oh, that's too bad. Although I use TeamSpeak, whatever that is, other VPN, etc., but no webcam. Only was there to see other people. Only saw you here. Thought others in G+. I don't know what that means, but yeah, if you want to see people, yeah, go somewhere else. But yeah, it's not about people. It's physics, for fuck's sake. So anyway, where was I? I was still on the where the hell was I? Oh yeah, gravity force thing. So again, so this the Ken, the camera guy, he really should know better, in the sense that you got to do better than just say, oh yeah, Newton, Einstein, all the technology they have, particle accelerators, and all of a sudden some guy comes up with some ferrocell and he sticks a magnet under it, and he's proving he can bend light. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just with a little magnet, he bent light. I mean, come on. It's moving the speed of light. What kind of mechanics, would you have to come, I mean, extraordinary bends in light, okay? Not just a little bend in light, but I mean, incredible bends in light. So, I mean, does the Ken guy actually think a fiber optic cable is bending light, technically? Is that what he thinks happening? I mean, clearly the light gets bent in its path because of the cable, but the cable is doing it by refraction. It's reflecting the light and forcing the light to go there by creating obstacles for the light to hit and bounce off of. The light isn't getting bent. It's being forced to go down some other path by obstacles. And he's implying that the photons are actually being magnetically pulled by a force into the magnet. And I'm just saying there's this, so that's why I just mean that, can you offer, because you're just saying, oh, come on, the guy's got to be smarter than that. He's got to be smart enough to know that's an extraordinary claim. And you got to come up. You have to be a lot more careful if you're going to make an extraordinary claim like that. That you're not making simple mistakes, and to not concede that it's light traveling through a medium, that the medium's full of ferrous material. It's just completely has every appearance of being an experiment completely controlled by that circumstance. That has nothing to do with what light's doing. It has to do with what the fluid the light's traveling through is doing. Like I said, it's a very interesting device. It's a nice toy, but it's not, as a scientific instrument, it's not giving you it's a lens, but it's like a funhouse lens. Okay, so it's doing something, okay, but it's not a useful something. I wonder if I focus on the camera. So the camera's in focus. If I'm in focus, then that's an interesting. So right there, the lens is in focus. Yeah, it's almost in focus to my. Anyway, but it's like a funhouse lens. Okay, so it's a neat device, but it's almost useful. But it's not useful if it's crookedy and bent, and it's not giving you the right answer. It's not giving you the right impression, superficially. But again, it's that the superficial defect is so obvious that you're saying, how can a smart guy fall for that and think that he's actually with a 2-inch magnet or a 1-inch magnet? I mean, realistically, the speed of light is, there'll be the actual mechanics of having a 30-degree bend in a photon. If you put that in a gravitational terms, it would be like an insane equation of force you would need to bend a photon over that short amount of distance. So that was another subject I wanted to get to, because Holiday is just such a harassment, implying things I'm not saying when I'm I haven't so there's I can give you this simple Lesage kind of model, and I've said right from almost from the start that I'm not arguing Lesage's particle gravity. I'm arguing it in the context of this kinetic function, and the fact that this kinetic function in some ways makes everything imperceivable. I mean, all interaction becomes imperceivable. I'll go back to the X. So two things collide. Depending on how you look at it, this thing bounced off this thing and went that way. So this one went that way, and this one went that way. Or you can see it as two things collide and this one goes straight through that one. Or you can perceive it as two things missed each other entirely, and all three look exactly the same. And the only way I can change that is I have to have a feature that travels with one of these things. These two things have to be subtly different. So I either change their polarization or their frequency. So if it's frequency, now I gotta wait for my camera to catch up. Yeah, it hasn't caught up yet. Come on, camera. Come on, you can do it. Come on. Come on, Pally. Come on. So a bit of a lag problem. I mean, you don't have it. I have it here. So you have to add polarization and frequency or some kind of element. So if it was frequency, you can kind of see that that just goes straight through. So even if the photon goes this way, the frequency would still go that way. You can, I mean, if you think about it, you could sort of understand that. And polarization, you know, that might be the key to this thing. The polarization doesn't travel straight through. So when this thing comes in with one polarization, the polarization takes the 90-degree turn, and you know, vice versa. They switch. The two things change identity. And so what's really happening is a color difference. If you were to use polarization as a color, it's as if there's so much stuff happening that the only thing really moving is the pattern, and the pattern moves as a structure of arrangements of polarization. So you know, it's hard for me to analogize it as a school of fish, but I suppose it might be possible. I mean, it's easy to understand the school of fish as if I have 1,000 fish and the school isn't moving, that means that 250 of the fish are going in some vector related to this direction, and 250 are going that way, and 250 are going forward and back. Well, and I have to do the sideways thing, which really doesn't work because obviously those two fish have to circle around somehow because they'll be escaping the school. So there always has to be the reverse element, but the idea is at any one moment in time, proportionally, there'll be that proportion. There'll be the same number of fish going in the sections. And if I move it, then there'll be more fish going one way. And the rule is there has to be a balance, so you can't eliminate fish going the other way in a sense, because your forward motion will mean you'll run into more fish going the way you're moving. So those two compensate for each other. And the only thing left to get rid of is the tangential dimensions. Left, right, up, down, to your forward and back. So yeah, I couldn't come up with the best description I have for the chaos of it is that if you think of a bunch of streams of stuff moving in directions, and if you think of them moving in all of those 360-degree directions of a two-dimensional object, you can sort of get the idea that yes, you could create a pattern at one point. You know, all these points could be at any point in space, you could have this drawing, so to speak, because there's the same amount of stuff moving in all these different directions. So you can just take any portion of space and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you could sort of understand that if you just counted the stuff that hit tangent was tangent to your circumference, tangent to your surface, that there would be it would fill that entire tangent surface, and you have the same amount of stuff doing that all the time. And so the argument is that what really moves is that circumference, and that circumference is made by polarization. So all the stuff in here is polarized in one direction, and everything coming at it or interacting with it goes in one polarization and leaves another polarization, maintaining that polarization. So if something comes in and gains velocity, if the thing is moving, it's because its shape has changed. So velocity means your shape changes. You're no longer balanced. So you no longer have the same amount of stuff going up, down, side to side, forward, back. You have more stuff going forward, obviously. So that maintains your velocity in a sense that the amount of stuff correctly polarized, that's what the stuff correctly polarized is doing, the stuff of the same polarization. There's more stuff of the same polarization moving forward than the other directions, and therefore you have velocity. And then anything that's interacting with you is exchanging polarization. So if a force affects you to give you acceleration, the acceleration is essentially going to be another one of these equations where something comes in with the wrong polarization behind you, and you take, well, technically it's the right polarization, and then you expel something of the wrong polarization. So a different polarization. So that's what the electrons are constantly doing, is if there's extra force, they're taking from the extra force only the part of the correct polarization, and everything else just goes right through it. And they're expelling, as compensation, stuff going in a tangential dimension, polarization. So it's keeping the right polarization and expelling anything of the wrong polarization. All right. But I'm just saying, when you think of this three-dimensionally, it gets really, really difficult. I mean, our brains aren't great at doing that. And certainly mine isn't. But this idea that, okay, the electron is just a swirl, a hurricane, a round hurricane of position. But it doesn't really have to move. Because what's moving, it constantly, these exchanges are constantly being made. And so there's constantly a kind of balance. And so it doesn't really move, it just shape changes. But the balance always gets kept, because that's the idea of the idea of the pressure of the, all the vectors are pointing towards the center. Everything has the center of gravity. So it's the center that the force is, at any point in the field, there's equal pressure coming from all directions, unless there's an object producing force or producing the shadow, which is the same thing as a absence of force, or but technically the shadow has no meaning without the acceleration. So the real thing that has to happen for me to cast a shadow, I have to absorb the energy. So I have to move to cast a gravitational shadow. It's essentially, I don't have any gravity unless I'm moving. And moving can be spinning. Moving, because part of you is gain acceleration. So the part of you going this way versus the part going this way when you're spinning. And what acceleration means is this hand goes a little bit further. And so then the pattern is now in a new location. And that's kind of what acceleration is this idea that it in pushing you forward, in getting this way, you have to release more going sideways or up and down, which means your shape changes. So acceleration keeps changing your shape, making you sort of longer. And so you just keep rolling faster because your tread is bigger. If I make a tank tread, that's probably a good example. So if you think like this circle is a tank tread, well, you can sort of understand if I make the tank tread go really tall onto the ground, then it's not going to, this little bit rolling on the ground, right, is going to take a lot more spins to move. It's going to move slower than if I make it narrow, low, flat, and then roll it. So it's sort of the same thing as like visualizing a tank tread. Is you visualize the amount of direction, shape in the direction of your movement, and minimize the amount of time you're wasting going up and down to gain velocity. But you're technically, as a piece of matter, going to have a really hard time still being matter and going anywhere near the speed of light if you really think about it. Going half the speed of light, maybe, okay, because you always got that bottom part that you still have to maintain. And you're collecting that from the environment. But light itself doesn't need the bottom part to travel. So there's a point where you once you at half the speed of light, effectively, I think, I have to think this through, you might end up collapsing the other dimensions entirely. I have to think that one. Never mind that part. Was just going off your other group discussion before Google Hangouts, which is part of Google Plus, is their logo, but the other live group talks you had, be in the room to view the interaction. I'm not sure what that means. Here, might end up just hearing you and not the other guys. I don't even know what that means either. So whatever. Yeah, there wasn't other guys. The rooms have been pretty empty. I'm just reading comments, you see. So there's not other people. You know, it's just not a very popular room yet. And I'm not a very, I'm not, I don't have much patience with people. I'm getting off the subject and all that kind of shit. It says, I have an agenda. And it's, the agenda is working on this theory, and I don't really have any patience for any going sideways from that agenda, mostly. So yeah, so the Hoffa video, I don't know if there's any point. I mean, he didn't say much. I didn't finish watching the whole thing because it's just such an obnoxious piece of shit of a video. Claiming I have wasted my time for 10 years on YouTube and all that kind of. I mean, it's going to be. I'm going to be the example of the YouTube's greatest accomplishment, technically, right? I mean, achieving the realization of finding Einstein's holy grail is probably going to be the greatest achievement anyone's ever done while on YouTube, right? As a player on YouTube. So he thinks I'm somehow afraid, and no, I have no fear. I won't get into the philosophical subjects, but yeah, I mean, saying I'm afraid of death, which is just idiotic. I'm afraid of suffering rationally. I said it overtly. It keeps pretending that I think there's something, like I'm afraid of futility, or I'm afraid of, no, I'm afraid of suffering. Mine, anyone's. Suffering is disgusting, horrible, awful. That's my only enemy. So anyway, then he says there's no logic to what he is saying. I mean, it's just idiotic. I mean, I've made these arguments so many times. Oh, anyway, it's just too stupid. So let's see what he said about Lesage. Yeah, that's right. Let me get to that. Let's see. Observation of polarization. Let's see. Well, anyway, he made this comparison that it's, and I've already explained the context. I didn't even know Lesage gravity existed when I formulated this particle theory of gravity. And I have no obligation to satisfy any Lesagian concepts. And as can be clearly seen in my own videos, I went first from a system that was active in the sense that the bits actually were doing, I mean, I had to first conceive of it as a particle force. So I was thinking of the particles, and it's still a particle force, but the idea of push was a stupid idea because it's really not pushing, it's absorbing. And absorbing is very different than pushing in a way. You're taking the identity of. So something going say if I am one polarization, I only accept blue things, and there's 10 blue things going this way, and only, 6 blue things going this way. I'm going to absorb the 10 blue things, and I'm going to absorb the 6, and I'm going to have an extra 4 blue things going forward. So I'm going to go forward in a sense. The pattern is going to now move because the arrangement of the polarization, like the tire, the tread on the um, tank. See, the place where the tank tread thing fails is obviously when you have the perfect circle. The perfect circle on a tank would still, would roll perfectly, unless you try to say that if it goes perfect circle, it never touches the ground. So you can almost make the argument then that if it's a perfect circle, there's no contact point because there's nothing. So it can't move because there's no contact point. So it's only when you start to bend the circle, ellipsize the circle, that you create friction that can make it move. So it could be an argument like that and still make the tread argument make sense. So it's the shape of this, but the idea would be is the circle would represent equal in all directions. And when it's equal in all directions, it doesn't move. And it can only move when it becomes unequal in these dimensional directions in terms of how many participants are of the correct polarization moving in that direction. But it's really just a package of polarization that makes everything work. Let's see, those other group discussions years ago. Well, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. I did stick cam for years. That's all different shit. This isn't about any of that crap. So, I mean, whatever you're looking for, that's not what I'm doing here. This is DraftScience. It's about one subject, essentially physics for now, and my published, my written and mostly articulated in video unifying theory explaining gravity, magnetism, and electricity and the nuclear interactions. All right. So anyway, so you have to watch the videos on the DraftScience channel. Do you know what the fuck I'm talking about? Pretty much. Or go to the website, which is linked in the description, I think. Well, hopefully. It's probably the wrong website. Well, I don't think it is. It's probably the right one. So anyway, do that. I don't know what hey means. But anyway. DraftScience. I mean, it's just such an unscientific thing. Hey. It just doesn't have any scientific weight. What do you think of the nothingness infinity dichotomy, and how do you describe either quality? I don't care about either one of the concepts, actually. I mean, I don't care about the nothing. I care about the something. The something is physics. The nothing isn't physics. There's no other dimensions. Time isn't a dimension. It's a function. There's no space-time. There's no bent space. There's no nothing that makes something happen. It's all just checkers moving the speed of light in straight lines. And there's only two functions that the checkers have: polarization, and they can come at a frequency, at a set polarization. And that's it. Otherwise, it's just a zillion little BBs banging into each other. And there isn't any, I'd say the infinity problem is solved by the fact that I don't think the photons leaving our universe are ever coming back. I just don't think there's any way to make those straight lines bend. I don't think photons can be bent in the first place. I don't think all the lensing shit is a lie. I don't think there's any such thing as gravitational lensing. So I don't really think there's any way to pull the photons back. So frankly, the universe is going to die a heat death because it's bleeding real energy into the nothing. So I think it's going to be, so whatever you mean by infinity of what? Yes, the photons might travel forever, infinitely travel. It's going to hit anything. Yeah, so. Again, this infinite thing, who cares? It just doesn't mean anything in the context of our existence. It just, how do you make, we're not going to, certainly human beings aren't going to be infinite. Okay, we're not going to survive the death of our sun. We're never going to escape our solar system. The physics won't allow it. There's no magic technology. So it's going to die. So who cares about this infinite nonsense? Who cares? We don't have any evidence that the freak, preposterous, insanely unlikely event of our existence is happening anywhere else in the universe. Clearly, we're not being visited by civilizations that could possibly be 10 billion years older than ours. I mean, incredible. Can you imagine 10 billion years more of human existence and technology, and they can't make a radio wave? They can't send us a TV show. I mean, come on. It just doesn't, it's just impossible for them not to be making noise that we would hear. So they obviously don't exist. Life is preposterously silly, and a good thing, because it is bad. It's not only just silly, it's just fucking bad. It's a bad game. Yeah, well, the egg always comes first. You have to have ingredients first. Ingredients go in the bowl, then you have a cake. Well, whatever. I'm not, I really don't want to play little silly games, okay? And chin. So I'm really not here to do chicken and egg shit. So I'd rather you just go waste time somewhere else. Yeah, you're really not up to the conversation. Stupid fucktard. So let's see, where was I? Yeah, so you only have you have very few ingredients here. You have checkers, identical checkers, things with a shape. So the checkers can stand on end or they can be flat on the board. They move at a constant speed, so they jump spaces at a constant speed. They never stop, so they can only get trapped in a spiral. If you're going to stop them, you have to spiral them or do something to trick them, so to speak. But technically, you can't really trick them because they only go in straight lines. All the stuff, it's all going in straight lines. It just exchanges identity. And so the only thing you're really doing is exchanging polarization, and that's what makes the universe visible. So I've said this before, and I know this is going to be one of the things I think that will really make it come home to people, is that around me right now is the same exact amount of energy that there is at the epicenter of say a nuclear explosion, and ground zero of a nuclear explosion. It's almost the same amount of real energy. If you add up the gravitons, magnetons, whatever, electrons, it's exactly the same amount of stuff. The only difference is the stuff around me is chaotically and randomly polarized, where the stuff leaving the nuclear bomb is all rays of polarized radiation, and that polarized radiation destroys matter, just, breaks it all to pieces. And because the polarization is the key thing. It's the mechanism that gives electrons acceleration, is polarized force. It has to be polarized for it to affect an electron. Frequency is also important. So that's what makes much of the radiation and nuclear bomb meaningful, is the fact that it's coming at frequencies that are, again, going to have an effect on electrons. What flavor is that? I don't do flavors, and you're just wasting my time. Really, I mean, I'm not going to, I'll just give you a fair warning. I have a limited amount of patience. So if that's all you have to do is contribute this distracting nonsense, it's a Chinese thing. That's it. It's not interesting. The subject really isn't vaping nicotine. So I'm really not going to do that. Really. I certainly wouldn't call it a hookah. No, I'm just saying. I mean, I have a feature, I can block, I can do all kinds of things, and if I'm in the right mood, So I'm just saying, if that's what you want, okay, you want to force me to do that, then fine, be an official troll. But I'm just saying, if you're misunderstanding that I'm doing some kind of social room, I'm not interested in any kind of social interaction. I'm interested in making arguments relevant to physics. And that'll be another truth written in the history of this whole thing. That it was quite amazing that I endeavored to persevere, through just a sea of imbeciles, people that did absolutely nothing, to help or encourage, and did everything to thwart and obstruct. So, yes, all you people are going to look like real pieces of shit, in hindsight. Anyway, so I guess I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish here. And yeah, so no point in dragging it out too much. If no one's going to show up. But yeah, I do have to write this up somehow. I mean, I wished it was as simple as just, you just say, look, the little things bang off of each other, and the byproduct is change in the universe. But the change only happens in the transfer of the identity. The fact that, say, I'm blue and you're red, we bang into each other. I go where I was going, but now I'm red, and you go where you were going, and now you're blue. And that's the subtle thing that's really happening. Well, there's distinctions about hypothesis versus theory. Again, this is, I just couldn't give a damn so fucking much. It's an argument, for fuck's sake. Okay? A theory is a declarative statement, and a hypothesis is a declarative statement. This is what I say the truth is. And I can make an argument, which is the evidence. I show you the evidence for the conclusion. Just silly, in my opinion, to sit there and play a game with hypothesis and theory. Yeah, they're both not proven. Oh, well, frankly, that's your problem, right? I mean, that's the audience's problem, I would argue. I can argue that I made the argument at trial. You could say that the evidence should have convicted OJ. The evidence was there. It was adequately enough presented. Reason says the outcome was guaranteed by the strength of the evidence. I'm saying I'm offering you a hypothesis, but frankly, I'm saying the hypothesis is so well documented in the sense that, yes, well, this theory started off as gravity, then it explained time dilation, then it explained magnetism, then it explained electricity, and became an entire unifying force theory. And it does it so completely, with no bent space, no extra dimensions, no gimmicks at all, none. It breaks down, it does the logical thing, which is the universe gets simpler, not more complicated at its fundament. The elemental particles, you get rid of that whole soup of bullshit they found with the accelerator. You don't need Higgs bosons and all this other nonsense anymore, because the mechanism gets dirt simple. There's only three things happening: photon traveling, speed of light. That's what matter's made out of. Everything's made out of the field. Everything's made out of it. And the only thing that matters is polarization and frequency. Those are the only two attributes that the little bits can have. They can come at a frequency and they're polarized. They have a shape. So they'll go through bars or they won't go through bars. Very, very, very simple. So, well, soup of bullshit, says you. So, yeah, it's very easy to say that you're not going to demonstrate how this evidence is in any way flawed. So, yeah, fuck you. It's a useless comment. You're just some jackass heckler, at the OJ trial going, if it doesn't fit, you got to acquit. Yeah, I can say something silly. Yeah, a glove that's been, just, cut to pieces, dried, heated, Anyway. Let's remember he's wearing them. The video they found after the trial, of course, but, quite obviously they fit him when he wore them on TV. So I guess, Sammy, you know what? I'll just ask you to leave because you're not making an argument. Soup of bullshit is not an argument. So fuck off. I mean, it really doesn't matter whether you have a hypothesis or you have a theory. If somebody's not even going to read it, they're not going to watch your videos, and they're not going to pay any attention to anything. They're just going to say something like, I don't like it. Well, what is there to say to that? Fuck you. I mean, that's not a fair trial. I mean, you really shouldn't express an opinion if you're not willing to listen to the evidence, right? I mean, it's preposterous to somebody just saying, I don't want to hear about the evidence that OJ's guilty. OJ's innocent. I say so. I mean, that's just silly. But again, I just don't know why you think there's a difference. So theory is what? I mean, you could argue that, Charles Darwin's grandfather believed in evolution. This is, one of the ironies of history that people never point out. He just couldn't prove it beyond just saying, hey, you know what? It just seems like the whole planet's really old, and it seems like animals have this identity thing, and clearly, we can raise dogs to look funky and we can change them, and but he didn't have like a whole pile of evidence. He just had like argument. And so I guess you could say his grandfather had a hypothesis because, yeah, he couldn't I think he could have, frankly, but maybe he did in his life, make lots of these arguments to young little Charles. But I mean, it's just kind of ironic and funny, just because the idea of evolution wasn't invented by Charles Darwin. What Charles Darwin did was create documentation of mechanisms and demonstrate its function in the world. And so he made the argument. He did the lawyer's job of compiling the evidence and presenting it in a manner that just makes it incontrovertible. I mean, just makes there's just no way to refute the preponderance and the place it points. So, but I wouldn't say that evolution is a theory. In my opinion, it's fact. It's a proven, established beyond reasonable doubt fact. So there's time, so people are going to keep calling it a theory forever, right? Well, does that make any sense in a sense? Everything's always a theory. I don't think there's a reasonable argument indicating any other possibility, anything other than unreasonable possibilities. I mean, you can't undo the, especially with the human genome now. I mean, you just can't undo it. You can't. There's no way you can't even come up with an extraterrestrial blah blah blah, because then you still couldn't explain how we have more primitive genes in our genome. You can't. Nothing would evolve backwards. Nothing would land on a planet and then become simpler. I mean, frogs wouldn't land on Mars and then turn into green slime and lose all of their frog DNA. We already know that DNA doesn't work that way. It doesn't get rid of the old code, it just ignores it, but it's still there. I mean, if they want to, theoretically, there might be some point where they could really, they might be able to construct some ancient creature of the past out of the artifactual DNA that we still possess. We still possess the DNA, of fins and shit. It's still there. It's just not all of it's there. That's the problem. So, but with computer technology and what, you could take a bunch of different species, and you might have enough of everything. When you count all the species, you might have enough pieces to actually reconstruct a primitive creature. So, yeah, so I don't know if there's anything else I have to add. I just wanted to do a clearing up on, Huffleday's such an obnoxious jackass. I mean, you waste time explaining something and he just nitpicks and naysays. And no matter what you do. But, no point. And then post videos right in my face, so to speak, of some asshole talking about the multiverse or something. You're just saying, what's the point? Why am I having a conversation with assholes who think every time a quantum event happens, a new universe is created, and that everything possible happens everywhere, somewhere. Somewhere, any kind of insanely stupid thing is happening somewhere. Everything that was possible happened. I mean, it's just such a pile of shit. Well, mainstream science isn't the authority. Frankly, they've already given away their right to be an authority, because everything they're saying is so fucking flawed. I mean, I nailed them on the two-slit experiment. They're just fucking mischaracterizing the experiment, mischaracterizing the truth. The Huygens gimmick is overtly a gimmick. On the lensing subject, it's obviously dark matter is being used as God of the gaps glue, to fix a theory that doesn't work. That they have the Hubble telescope, yet they haven't repeated Einstein's the sun gravitationally lensing, even though they now have the Hubble telescope and can do it without an eclipse. They still haven't repeated the fucking experiment successfully. I mean, science has given up its right to be an authority because it keeps defending premises and axioms of their own science that are obviously flawed. The evidence is so tainted and so bad, it can't be trusted. So if mainstream science doesn't accept your theory now, then what will it take? Will you forever go unnoticed? Well, I think it's obvious that I won't, in the sense that the truth wins in the end. And it's just so obviously the right answer that as soon as some real physicists look at it, they're going to have to concede that, yeah, this is what we should have done from the very beginning. I mean, all this wacky bullshit of trying to figure out if photons went through two slits and they're reading our minds and all this other entanglement crap and all this other bullshit was just so silly. To go on these wild goose chases for the photon with magic powers. It was just stupid. So again, just show me where light is affected by gravity. I mean, where's your evidence that light is affected by gravity? I'm just saying the evidence sucks. The original experiment was done by Einstein's, the biggest supporter of Einstein before Einstein was famous. The Edinburgh guy had read Einstein's crap and he loved the idea of it. And so he wanted to help him prove it. So they came up with this, oh yeah, well, if we do this lensing of the light, that'll be a evidence that, you know, we're onto something. Because, see, theoretically, Newton abstracted that it would be impossible, even if you could bend light with gravity, by Newton's calculations, the light wouldn't be in the gravity long enough to be bent significantly enough to ever be noticeable. And then what Einstein did with his relativity theory was he changed the time component. And so now he doubled, because the light bends, so it takes a longer path, right? Even though it doesn't really. But so theoretically, the light would be in the gravity longer because it traveled a longer distance in the longer path, even though it doesn't really do that. So anyway, so Einstein doubled the amount of the effect of the gravity. So by Einstein's theory, it would be possible to bend light because you're doubling the amount of time the light would be in the gravity. So anyway, so the Edinburgh guy does this experiment and his results suck, right? I mean, another guy does it at the same time and he says, no, there was no lensing. The Edinburgh guy says yes, and then they get together and they get the other guy to change his mind and agree with him. But I mean, I'm just saying that it's so bad that, you know, obviously the guy was a whore for Einstein, and you really don't want your best friend doing the experiment that proves you right, right? And so then every other time they tried to duplicate this experiment, they fucked up because of some technicality, right? They got to go to an eclipse on the top of Mount Kooky, and, you know, whatever, there's a snowstorm, some other bullshit happened. So the other efforts to duplicate it never got past their margin of error because they fucked up something with the telescope or with the camera plates and all this other shit. But anyway, the whole thing became moot the minute the Hubble telescope was put out into space, because now you can look directly at the space next to the sun and you're not blind anymore. The Hubble telescope can look right next to the sun and the space is black. It's not light anymore. There's no light. There's no atmospheric diffraction. So they can see right next to the sun. So the Hubble telescope could see lensing every single day, every single minute of every day. It could take a picture of a sun, the light from a distant sun being diffracted by the sun, our sun, being gravitationally affected. And they don't do it. Why? It's because it doesn't work. Yeah, that's why. You don't see those pictures published anywhere. Why? Because they don't exist. Because it doesn't work. So I'm just saying, you know, established physics is so full of shit. It's really pitiful. It's pitiful that somebody in science, a real scientist, hasn't called science out and said, wait a minute, we've gone way too far based on way too thin of evidence. I mean, this whole idea that we prove light is a wave because the two-slit experiment, and then you just ignore the fact that you get the same fucking pattern with a single slit. And there's no question about what slit the photon went through, is there? No question whatsoever. I mean, it's just so bad. What about the theory of evolution? How could have he extracted it when it was sent out? What the fuck does that mean? Oh, crap. Again, the theory of evolution existed before Darwin. People believed in evolution. They just didn't have proof or evidence. Well, they had some, but they just didn't have a good enough argument, I guess, to be confident. And all Darwin did was compile evidence. If you read his book, you'll see it's a tedious, horrid, just miles and miles of fucking pigeon breeding experiments and shit. All the birds on the Galapagos, the tortoises. I mean, the tortoises is more interesting, frankly. Frankly, I found the most interesting part is when he went into the geology of the Galapagos Islands and the way he compiled the description of how ancient the world really must be by just describing the progression of the islands from their source, the volcanic source. So the further the islands are from the volcanic source, the more densely populated they are by life. Okay, and you could sort of measure in geological time how long it would take for these islands, okay, the whatever 200 miles, from the original location. And that's where he really made the argument for this idea that geological time is so fucking long, and that this game of evolution is in this time frame that's absolutely huge. Well, I mean, I don't know, by simulation. Well, simulation, I think, would just be ludicrous. But if hologram is the silly one too. So hologram versus multiverse, yeah, that's like, imbecile Godzilla against imbecile Gamera. It's like Dumber and Dumber of, preposterous and preposterouser. Let's see. I think he was referring to light being affected by black holes' gravity. I didn't know any other object with enough gravity to do so existed. And by you, none do because gravity doesn't affect it. Well, I'm just saying Einstein clearly was talking about the sun lensing. That's what he predicted. He predicted the sun would be able to bend light enough for us to observe it. And his argument was the only time you can observe it is through an eclipse because you have to block out the atmospheric haze. You can't see with a telescope on Earth, right? So how could you see the lensing of the sun during the day? Because you can't use telescopes on Earth during the day. So the only way you can do it is during an eclipse when the sun is blocked out. Then you can see next to the sun without the sunlight blinding you. Pointed out the Hubble telescope doesn't have that problem. How could the volcano make it dense? What the fuck does that mean? Could you say something near rational, please? The volcano doesn't make the density of life on the island. Okay, the point is it's point is time. Didn't I say the word time? It demonstrates geological time. It takes thousands, maybe even 1 million years for the first island to get where it the so far away from the the volcanic origin. It's moving on the continental plates. The islands are being formed and they're moving on the continental plate. Can you understand that? And Darwin observed all that. And he pointed out how each island, as you get closer and closer to the volcanic activity, each island gets richer and richer. I mean, less rich as you get closer. So you go from islands rich in life to islands very sparse in life. So it just demonstrates that that time and evolution go together. Oh, fuck. Oh, irritating. Anyway, so again, I'll contemplate leaving, unless I get some kind of reasonable response, reasonable question or statement. But that's the neat thing about this whole thing, this whole internet age is every bit of the process, like the 4 or 5 years ago when I first had arguments about the 2-slit experiment, and people were defending this stupid, splitting photon bullshit, and 2 photons interfere with each other and they got photon radar and all this other bullshit. Yeah, well, I'm sorry you're not articulate. So yeah, it's not about making me mad. It's just I don't like wasting my time, and I can't. If I can't comprehend what the fuck you're saying, it's a waste of my time. So maybe it's just a language thing. You're using a translator or something, but it just isn't working well enough. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the whole thing being documented. So it's just kind of funny. There's this whole adventure into my getting into physics, and then I watched all these lectures, and I did the learning curve thing. I mean, I knew some physics, but I didn't know enough physics to be able to put these pieces together. And yeah, so I went on a mission 4 or 5 years ago to find the truth, and I did it. And it's like every bit of it is in videos, on the Amendum channel and then the DraftScience channel, and that's really quite interesting. I mean, I don't do that where you have such a complete diary of the development of a theory. Yeah, kind of, mostly. Yeah, and the only downside is that there's some videos I'd almost want to take down just because I explain things. I kind of had the wrong idea in my head, and I just didn't. It wasn't what I'm saying in those videos isn't completely accurate anymore. to say it gracefully. No, I wouldn't enjoy Interstellar. It's ludicrous science. Absolutely ludicrous. There's absolutely no reason. You can't possibly not drag the planet. The planet would have to be going so fucking fast for it not to go into the black hole to do the effects they had in the movie. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. How the atmosphere, but anyway, there's so many things wrong with that fucking movie. And then the whole idea of you going to the black hole and then you go back in time and have a handshake with your grandfather or something. I mean, whatever the shit that was. I mean, just preposterous bullshit. Velocity will hurt you. Okay, so if I move you anywhere near even though I think even if you moved 1/4 of the speed of light, so much of your matter would be disrupted that your material form would just turn to soup. You'd be fucked. You're doing the tank tread. Your tread's getting longer and longer and longer. You're spaghettiing, and as you're spaghettiing, you're going to get lost in the mix. There ain't going to be no you anywhere near velocities approaching a black hole. And the whole black hole thing is that's just so fucking stupid. Oh yeah, light doesn't go faster going in, but somehow goes slower coming out? No, I don't think so. Well, I wish there was somebody to recommend, but everybody's an idiot. Frankly, I'm the only rational, sensible, logical, informed, reasonable person on earth. Oakley doke. Have a nice day also. It'll be warm and humid here, so good for me, maybe. Except I'll be tired because I was up all night. Stupid fuck I am. Hello there, D. Almost looks like I don't know, a frowny face with 2 dimples. But I suppose it's a smiley face. Seems backwards to me. But maybe I'm dyslexic. Or you're dyslexic. Yes, I think I'd have the eyeballs first and then the smile. Yes, I think I would. Seems appropriate. No, you're standing upside down, maybe. I still have to get to painting. I really have to. I have to finish. See, I promised myself I'd finish the one I'd started before I'd start the new one. I just haven't been able to break away from all my other fun. I wonder if it's still raining. Check the radar here. Yeah, still more rain. No, that was the old image. New image, please. Good. It's clearing up. All right. So let's see. What else is there to say? So I'll try to end again. Never do the ending. I just keep saying, okay, I want to end unless somebody says something, and then somebody says something. Then I don't end. I did the same thing now. I haven't finished either of the paintings I started. Yeah, it's difficult. I used to paint, though. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, somehow I found. I sculpted shit. Gorilla. But I used to do these things, and I made these little boxes and sculpted the covers, and I took real time, and painted shit. And, I don't know why. I have an awful lot of projects now, though. I have all this stuff I'm doing here and there on the internet, but I am wasting an awful lot of time in my garden, for fucking flowers. It seems a little silly and frivolous. But I like simple things like that. I like just dirt, plant. I like simple tasks. I guess that appeals to me just because there's so many other things I'm doing where you have to think, and you gotta it's very angsty and brain troubling and hurtful of the consciousness. So I guess I like doing something that doesn't require me to think. And it gives me an excuse to romp around naked and whatnot. So I guess that's part of it. It's so nice here not to have neighbors most of the time. It's just my own little paradise now. Could light reach one point of the to the other? Yeah, boy, that's really tough. The universe. Could light reach one? Yeah, no, doesn't. Can't make any sense out of that. I do have to. And this is such a, this is so glaring. I mean, I don't know. I really have to find a way to get this argument made because it's just so obvious how physics has really fucked up this light thing. Yeah, unfortunately, there's all kinds of jackasses that are blowing shit off, and then that's around here. There's some farmers that they're nice people, but down the street, I they were shooting there. I'm damn sure it was a shotgun, because it sounded exactly the same each time. Each bang was exactly the same, and they would be like bang, 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 bang. It was just too obvious, and they were really loud. Like nobody could blow off like M80s that accurately or anything. And it sounded like you can really tell the difference between a gunshot. And so they must have blown off like 40 rounds with their shotgun. It's just obnoxiously loud and irritating. And I never liked fireworks just because I never liked the noise. I mean, I like the color thing in this. I like the explosion idea and all that kind of stuff. But the noise was just, I have that, whatever that sensitivity thing is. But, I don't like noises that shake my organs. Well, I mean, obviously, light travels the speed of light in one direction forever. It never does anything else. It just keeps going in that direction forever. So, yes, it could go anywhere if it has enough time to get there. Yeah, I just don't have much use for. I mean, when I was a kid, I liked fireworks, but I just can't, I can't find a give a damn anymore. It just doesn't do anything for me. But I mean, I like playing with them. I like blowing stuff up and whatnot. I mean, I like, you know. So I guess I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I do have like I have a sparkler sitting here. Ooh, sparkler. I have to find a proper use for. Let's see. You proposing the universe is not infinite, John. I don't know what that means. Now it's boring. I don't know what that means either. I don't know if it's entirely off topic, but whatever. Really on the topic. But yeah, I'm really not interested in people who are boring. To tell the truth, now it's boring. When you think about that kind of crap, when people say shit like that, you're just like, well, then why don't you just fuck off, cunt? I mean, I really don't need you. What do I need you for? You're smelly and stupid. So yeah, see ya. Never. God, I mean, really, people are such assholes. Anyway, yeah, I mean, he obviously couldn't do the communication thing. Maybe you're saying, okay, fireworks are boring, but you should have said fireworks are boring. Not now it's boring. I didn't know what now it's boring means. So anyway, just, you gotta just be careful. You're gonna comment in one of my rooms. You better be careful because I got no use for bullshit. Okay, I'll unblock him now. Okay, so I'll block him in absentia. You won't know that he's unblocked. Let's see. If you grind off the powder from a metal rod of the sparkler, it makes a pretty good fast explosion. Yeah, no. Well, it's whatever they call that stuff, right? It's that uh, the stuff they burn. Use it for welding and stuff. Oh, fuck, I can't, I hate getting old because you end up losing words. Thermite. It's like thermite, so yeah, it's really, you know, it's really hot. Yeah, it all breaks off into chunks, but the trick is, you got to be careful not to grind it up, the wrong way because, yeah, you don't want to be igniting it while your hands are in it. It's okay, John. I just misunderstood your comment about boring. So I didn't realize you were talking about fireworks. But anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah, I was leaving. Yeah, somebody say something brilliant, or I'm leaving, and then somebody's going to type something brilliant. Yeah. Such. And so forth. But even that Ken guy, he does piss me off because he really won't do this like have a conversation thing. He'll only talk to chatters, and so you really can't chat good physics. You really have to talk it through in person to understand somebody. And I can't get him to do that because we share a common interest in the sense we established physics we're not too confident of. But I mean his I'm all particle, so he's like he went too far the wrong way, and I went the right amount of distance the right way. So just we both picked different horses. We knew the horse that was running was wrong, and so we picked some other horse, but he picked a donkey, and I picked the real deal. Yeah, well, I would have to leave eventually. So don't die. Well, I'm gonna have to do it anyway. So why don't I do it right now? There's nothing really important I have to do tomorrow. Yeah, I'm just saying. So I mean, leaving will happen eventually. So what's the difference, now or later? And such. And so forth and whatnot. So let's see if there's anything else. I got any drawings here I have to finish. I think I covered the important shit. Yeah, the rest of it's philosophy crap, so that'll be done on the Minden channel and such. I really gotta do some more writing. I really hate writing. So I haven't written up the electricity part. Yeah, I gotta really get that done. So, I gotta email some physicists. Offer them a prize of a few $1,000s to debunk me. Objects float in liquids denser than themselves. So why do objects float in liquids denser than themselves? I mean, why do like boats float? I mean, I think you know the answer to that, right? The density isn't higher overall. There's obviously space of less density than the water. So even though the boat is made of denser material than the water, the boat floats because most of the space is stuff less dense than the water. And so that would be the only reason why something would float, would go against the density rules. The only way you can really disobey them is that you have to be captured in a local condition, and the local condition has to be creating an imbalance. So you have to be tied to a balloon, for example, or something. There has to be some reason like that. So you'd have to give me an example of some less dense thing that's floating. Sometimes it has to do with surface tension. So some things will float. Like you could, I think they've done experiments like with mercury and electricity, and then not levitated things on it, but you know what I mean? Things can't break the barrier. So the surface creates a charge, and the charge forces things to float because they can't break through the electron field, you know, to get to the place they're attracted to, where gravity would push them if they, you know, but they can't get the gravity's not strong enough to break the bond. But I don't know of any other way that you can do it except to create bubbles in something of less density. So somehow you have to make the thing less dense. I mean, that buoyancy argument's used for airplane lift, which I think is interesting. I mean, it's just, you know, you think it's not that complicated. You know? Well, it's got a propeller and the wings go pointy downy, and so yeah, it should go uppy. You know, but it's subtly more complicated than that. It's all about getting that nose pointed up, you know, and so it's planes only fly where they're pointing, which is kind of interesting. So it's the real question is, how do you change where it's pointing? A force going up to get it to point up, and then it'll go up. But you know, it's really quite the physics is kind of interesting, because yeah, you always hear about this air pressure change. You know, it's that the lower air pressure is pushing the wings up, and it's a little more complicated than that. I.e., planes fly upside down. You know, which, you know, you theoretically would say, well, how can it do that? The wings are shaped wrong. You know. So, you know, it's really just about where it's pointing. It's just about the points. So that's why planes are always built a little bit like funky. You know, is to try to give them a little help by having the nose up a little bit to try to get the idea, okay, you're going to go up. There is no dark matter. I mean, how's it created? Is somebody closes their eyes and go, I wish I might. I wish there was some dark matter to fix my mathematics. Oh, my mathematics is broken. Please help me, dark matter. Save the day, please. And the dark matter shows up and saves the day. Yay! I mean, the concept is just such a gimmick. Like, it's like inventing the invisible man, right? Oh, the invisible man killed OJ's wife. That's exactly how preposterous it is, right? It's like me going to court and I'm defending OJ, and I say, OJ didn't kill his wife. Invisible man did it. He had opportunity. He had means. OJ was just going there to say, hi, Nicole, how you doing? So OJ was there, but the invisible man killed her right in front of OJ. It was horrible. It's that big a gimmick. It's just not, I mean, it's bad enough. Okay, it's one thing to say, all right, there's matter we can't see because it's not on fire. Okay, that's one thing to say. Okay, that you could almost argue, okay, so there's some planets and things, and there's no light reflecting off them and no radiation reflecting off them, so we don't really see them very well. They're very, very dim. So maybe we can't see them in the galaxy because they're dim. It doesn't really work as an argument, but frankly, they always do reflect the radiation. And you'd notice that, especially in the X-ray realm and such. So, but the irony is, the part that's really preposterous is they turned it into some kind of matter that doesn't reflect anything. It's transparent matter. And not just a little bit transparent, like even glass isn't fully transparent. It always reflects some percentage. It's like perfectly transparent. So it's like invisible matter that has gravity, right? But it doesn't have enough gravity to cause everything to collapse and crash into the center of the galaxy. I mean, it's just such a canard. It's such a grotesque effort to make a failed theory work. Horrible. I mean, it's so bad. It's just like I said, it's so bad that there's just no excuse for physicists. Smart. These people are supposed to be smart. They talk about these people being the smartest people in the universe. Michio Kaku is the smartest man ever to live. Blah 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 blah. And you just figure out that that's a pile of shit. They have no evidence of its existence besides the fact they need it to fix their math. Besides that fact, yeah, there's absolutely no evidence that there's any such thing as the invisible matter. Why are you asking the same exact question? It's just a retarded thing to do. I think that's retarded. It is a girl. Girls are a little stupid. I mean, sorry. I shouldn't joke. I'm joking. I mean, that's really like driving on the wrong side of the road. Dark matter doesn't exist. There's no configuration of matter visible to that has no electrons, that can't reflect some kind of radiation. There's no way you can shine radiation at matter and not have some portion of it reflect because of the electrons in the matter. It's just not possible. So it has to be matter without electrons. Does that make sense to you? There's matter in the universe that doesn't have electrons, but none of it is close to us. Yeah, it's all in magical places where we need it to fix the math. But there's none of it that our spaceships bang into, and none of the light from distant planets bang into it. It doesn't get in the way of our vision of anything. I mean, it's just such a crock of shit. Because, yeah, of course, all photons go right through it because it's invisible matter. I mean, again, if I said invisible man, you would know that's silly. But if I say invisible matter, that's not silly. John, to me, did bring up a good point. Again, I don't know what you mean by that. I answered the fucking question. It's not created because it doesn't fucking exist. For fuck's sake. They made up the whole thing. It's all made up. There's no evidence that dark matter exists. None. Zero. Nothing. There can't be evidence because it's invisible. Don't you get it? Even if you wanted to prove it existed, you couldn't prove it invisible. It's just a gravity fix, right? They have a gravity problem. Their math doesn't work. They can't make gravitational lensing in the silly places they think it is unless they fill the galaxy full of this crap. Okay, and they put it in the right places, of course, too. They only have it in select locations, so somehow the dark matter knows not to spread. But anyway, it's the whole thing is just so stupid. So it's just a gravity fill. And it's stupid. It's totally unnecessary. they don't even understand the concept of galaxies in their orbits, right? They think galaxies are solar systems. And if you look at, and that's what they're comparing it to. And so they're expecting things on the outside to be moving really slow and things on the inside to be moving really fast, because they're thinking of solar systems. See, if you're not, if we were orbiting because there was another Earth on the other side of the sun, right? So just take the sun out of the equation and put another Earth on the other side where it would be if it was the other side of the sun. And then just move those two things closer and make them go slower, they would orbit each other. They would spin around each other, theoretically. Right? That's what galaxies are doing. The gravity in galaxies is being created by the giant spirals. So the suns are actually moving towards the spiral arms. That's where the heaviest gravity is, not towards the center of the gravity. They're moving towards the spiral arms. That's why the bigger the galaxy gets, the thicker and more exact those arms become. Is because that's where the mass is moving. It's arms. It's not moving towards the center. I mean, it's moving faster towards the arms than it is towards the center. And the arms are obviously balancing the galaxy. The galaxy has to have mass on both sides because the center is weak gravitationally relative to the sun's strength in our solar system. In our solar system, the sun is 99.99999% of the gravity in the solar system. In a galaxy, the center of the galaxy maybe is only 30% of the mass of the galaxy. Do other galaxies have different orbits? Well, they all spin. So in a sense, no. They're all planar, so they're flat. They're not a sphere. They're flat. That's the problem with the lensing images. It's so obvious, right? I mean, this even like I don't want to insult her intelligence, but yeah, she'll understand what I'm saying here. So if I make two pictures of a galaxy going two different ways, you could kind of understand. Okay, oh yeah, my camera's not working, so I can't tell what's in focus. But you could sort of understand that if you're traveling, and you want to be affected by the gravity of something, that if you go through this way, you'll be in the gravity for a very short amount of time, just the thickness of the galaxy. But if you go through around the side, this long way, you'll be in the gravity a really long time because the thickness is there. So the gravitational lensing images should be showing up on galaxies facing this way, not galaxies, facing this way. I mean, flat. So this pancake thing, the light would go through it really quick. They should be doing lensing with this kind of shape. And so that it's so fucking obvious. And you're saying these are supposed to be the most intelligent people in the world, and they can't figure that out. That this flat thing, the light would only, if this flat thing was lensing, the light would only be in the gravity for a tiny fraction of the amount of time it would be in the gravity if it went through the galaxy on its side. And these brilliant physicists can't figure this shit out. I have to explain this to them. I mean, another one is the aspect experiment, which proves entanglement. Like I said, and I think I have a theory of explanation, but that has to do with polarization in the bars, right? And here's your simple explanation. Frisbees, okay, so straight up and down, you can see that they would go through the bars. And if you threw them this way, you can kind of see they get blocked by the bars. Well, all the Frisbees that come this way get blocked. But some of the Frisbees that are the right way get blocked because they actually hit the bar. Okay, so there's a disproportion. So more good Frisbees die trying to get through the bars than bad Frisbees get through. No bad Frisbees get through, but some good ones get blocked. And so that's what creates the imbalance that, that violates the whatever you call them, something or other mathematical thing. What's that guy's? The inequities, in the something or other, blah blah blah. But anyway, it's so simple. I mean, I thought of it doing a room in 1 fucking hour. So in 1 fucking hour, I've blown up just about all the evidence they have of entanglement. Just about all of it. It's the only experiment that proves any of this entanglement crap, and I just blew up that experiment. So it's, I mean, physics is shamefully, disgustingly, horridly broken as a science. It's all these little pricks with their big egos. Sorry to say it that way, but they're just, you can just see the small penises desperate to, well, I might have a small penis, but I got a giant brain. You can just see the desperation of these assholes. Because they can do some fucking math. They think they're geniuses because you can do math. Convoluted, abstract, fucktarded, symbolic math with sine thetias in it and lambdas and whatever else. It's so disgusting. What will always be the culprit of communication, but everyone knows that? Want. Oh. I don't think that has anything to do with breaking communication. Be the culprit of communication. I mean, frankly, that's just not not terribly well written as a statement. Want be bad, okay? Now that might be a good way to say it. Personal interest be bad, okay? Yeah, that's dangerous. And physicist has a real personal interest in maintaining the supernatural. You can't understand anything. This is all magical stuff, and only us, the gurus, only us, the magicians, can understand any of this because it's way over all your heads, and nobody can ever understand it because we don't understand it. I mean, you just got to keep it all woo-woo-y. Well, if everybody's complaining, frankly, you got to do something about it then. I mean, when everybody starts to complain. My battery seems to be failing. Let's see, let me try this one. Yeah, it's dead on that one too, so it must be the battery. It needs to be recharged. Fucking old cunt. Pussy shit battery. I have to buy myself some more of them damn batteries. I have a ton of lithium batteries. It's just that they're not convenient. Yes, well, you saying I'm right doesn't mean much, but thanks anyway. Bad battery guy says I'm right. Yeah, I don't know if I'll put that on my resume. Gonna have funny hair too. You don't look like a chick either. Yeah, kind of look like Larry of the Three Stooges or something. Little bit. I mean, in a good way. Yes, well, you can't really learn from science, so I'm just trying to learn from science. No, you have to. No point in learning from anybody but me. Because everybody else is an idiot. I mean, it's just the way it turned out. Not my fault. Just happens to be the truth. I have to do everything. I have to explain that life is horribly disgusting. People can't figure that out. Unfairness is all over the place, disgustingly sloppy, completely out of control. I mean, it's just train wreck everywhere. And then I have to explain physics too. It's annoying. I have to do everything. It's me, Sammy. I've been screwing with you the whole time with 3 accounts. Cool. I don't know if that means anything, but who cares? I don't even know what a Sammy is. Sammy 5. I don't even know what that means. But I guess I can just get rid of Marissa then anyway, right? So see you later, Marissa. Oh, let's see, was there a Sammy in here earlier? Let's see. I don't see any Sammys now. Oh, Okey doke. So I guess he thinks I should know him from somewhere. But me don't. All right, anyway, 5 o'clock now. I can leave because it's 5 o'clock and fuck, that's late. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for the whatever. I feel like I should say thanks, but I guess there's no real reason to thank anybody. Yeah. Yeah, you really don't help at all, do you? No. But nice to have the chick support and such. That does help. Yeah. It does help. Yeah, it's tragic, but yeah, it's I mean, yeah, it's a controlling feature of one's self-image is sort of somehow dependent on being valuable for silly reasons. Yeah, I need somebody to appreciate me for bullshit. Yeah, the bullshit that I have nothing to do with. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't matter somehow. I'll have a good sleep anyway. See if I can conjure up some sort of daydream. Yeah. Probably gonna put tigers in it or something. I'll be going for like that Paradise Island painting and I'll end up with the tiger, chewing my. Anyway, injuring me in important places. But we'll see. Who knows? Well, I'll know when I get there. Never know who's or what's in dreamland. Get what you get and such. Yeah, so, okay. Well, I think I did my job. And till the next time, when I won't know when that'll be, but it'll be sometime in the future. Forward. Yeah, I have no way of going backwards. So ooh. Boy, that was almost a disaster. Yeah, I almost knocked something into the computer. Jeez. It is making a noise. Stop it. Stop making a noise. Yeah, I took the cover off because it was getting too warm. And then, well, anyway. Uh-oh, something happened. Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, I think so. Anyway. I didn't even want to have a computer in the case. I have not to have the case open. What the fuck's the point of having the computer in the case? Because, well, the motherboard doesn't even fit. So I have the wrong formatted motherboard in the wrong case. So it's in the wrong place. And you have to put the wires through the holes. And, well, it's just. Anyway, new use computers coming this week. So hopefully that was a worthwhile, you know, whatever, $75 investment. More cheap, crappy computers. Yeah. Let's see. It should be more efficient. If I'm going to have crappy computers, I at least should have ones that are less energy inefficient. So at least I bought some more energy efficient ones. There's a new person in the room. Yo, whatever that means. Fair radio. Retards everywhere. Is New Independence Day any good? Well, the first movie was ludicrous, right? I mean, preposterously, insensibly nonsensical. Like the aliens would come in the most incredibly huge spaceships ever made, with zillions of aliens in them. To do what? To blow up the planet? I mean, really? Why wouldn't you just send drones? I mean, for fuck's sake, why would you? Why would you actually travel, millions of you, to the planet to do extermination duty? Wouldn't that be like the perfect job for Bucky the robot? I mean, why the hell would you personally want to go on the extermination mission? I mean, it's retarded. So how can you make a sequel to a movie premised on insanely stupid? I mean, it was just it's a watchable movie, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it is just a piece of steaming shit in so many ways. I mean, come on. Oh, I'll give it a virus and make it totally vulnerable to a, skanky cunt attack. Yeah, we'll blow up its cunt. Shoot it right in the cunt. I mean, it's just a silly fucking movie. I mean, even when he's, in the airplane doing the suicide mission, I mean, it was just so stupid in a way, because you're saying, well, if you're flying into that beam, maybe that beam already is going to be enough to blow up your plane, you stupid retard. And how come the plane, like, stops? It's like flying and just stops, barely moves. I mean, yeah. Missiles didn't barely move. I mean, it just was kind of silly. And now that's all they had was these stupid. Why would you? Why wouldn't you shoot bullets when they don't have any defenses? I mean, why would you waste missiles blowing up a single one of their 4 million trillion fucking spaceships? And I'm just saying they have 4 million trillion things flying around it, and they can't seem to wipe out a few F-15s. I mean, come on. I mean, the whole thing was just so. Well, yeah, it just was it was just, I mean, I'm just saying they're kind of preposterous plot flaws. Don't you think? I mean, it's just, look, first, the thing of the whole spaceships being shaped is just kind of silly anyway, just because obviously in space, friction's not a problem. You're going to have to use deflector shields anyway, so it really doesn't matter what shape your spaceship is. There's no, like, aerodynamics in space. But yeah, I mean, just the physics of this fucking giant thing. Anyway, it was just so stupid to me. I mean, I'm just like, why would you do that? Why would I do this? Why would I go attack a planet this way? And then I'm going to attack it, and we're all going to attack in sequence. Why would we even bother with that? We're indestructible. We have, completely infinite power in a sense. They can't even, like, they can't do nothing but, like, swear at us. They can't in any way hurt us. And I'm going to be worrying about coordinating an attack? I don't think so. That was just stupid. So I just imagine the second one is just as stupid, right? It's just all this way overdone hero shit, And I mean, the story is just idiotic. Like, again, the aliens are going to come back, and this time the queen ant comes too. So they're stupid enough to lose millions of their citizens, and now they're going to send millions more to go get killed, and they'll even send the queen. Silly. So too fucking stupid. So anyway, and they never even explained why they were killing them. I mean, which is another thing that's stupid. Why would they come here? What do they want? Well, I want you to die. For what? So how does that make your day better? I don't get it. Well, I know, but all of what Hollywood does isn't completely insanely stupid. And I'm just saying it was just pretty hugely plot flawed. But again, all these movies are pretty. When you go through the list, they're all pretty bad. They haven't made a good sci-fi movie since like Terminator 2. I mean, the Aliens movies were pretty good. I mean, even the bad ones were better than any of these new sci-fi movies. And frankly, The Matrix was hugely flawed, but it was watchable just as a, whatever kung fu movie. Oh, District 9. That was two different movies, so that was too silly. I mean, the guy in the robot suit, like that should have just made a separate movie about people in robot suits, right? Because that was sort of interesting. But the whole alien cat food thing, I mean, it was just too stupid again. Well, we ran out of gas. Oh, right. The aliens ran out of gas. I mean, it's too stupid. And the whole genetic gun thing was idiotic. I mean, there was a lot of things in that movie that was just stupid. Well, you have to really watch some of the videos. It's all draft physics. I have a unification theory that answers all the questions. Does time dilation, gravity, magnetism, electricity, explains everything. Everything's finished, done. Einstein was wrong about a lot of things. E equals mc squared. He got that right, but everything else he got wrong. There's no dimensions. There's no time is not a dimension. It's a function. What else can I critique? Yeah, there's no multiverses. Photons aren't waves. It's all fucking shit. I hear you, Cat. Anyway, yeah, it's time to go. The cat wants to go out, which means I have to wake up pretty soon to feed him. But anyway, and before I can wake up, I have to sleep. Yeah, I think like I said, there's some, yeah, well, I'm sorry, there is a ton of videos, but I'm just saying if you find one of the summing up videos, there's the website link, and there's a video there that just, it's not completely accurate, but it's pretty, so generally it gets to the point. Obviously it gets more complex as you get into the layers of it. Well, anyway, if you just watch the beginning of this video, you might, if you just watch the part where I explain how current physics is so full of shit that any theory is better than invisible matter. Yeah. Invisible matter to the rescue. Anyway, till next time and such. So forth and whatnot. Blah, 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 blah.